we go. So welcome back. So from the stability of Earth, we now move into the playful flow of water. So useful. It's like the excellent balance between the two. So I was thinking about it, and I don't know when this was happening, but there was one particular time that I was bringing to mind. I think my daughter must have been really small when Max and I just got into it. Like, it wasn't a fight, but we just like had very differing opinions on something. I can't even remember what, and we were just dug in. And it was like trench warfare. You know, we weren't like throwing bombs, but we were like that digging in quality. Like, we were both entrenched in whatever our side of the story was. And I remember that feeling of just like, totally stuck, totally contracted around it, and immobile. Like, I am not going to move from this place. Obviously I did, because we're beyond it now. But it was a lot of earth, like too much, way too much earth. And what I know helped was when we started to get moving. So like literally physically moving, and I don't know if we like were by the river or something, but like a sense of energy starting to moving, and somehow it broke up, and you know, I don't know if we ever solved it, but whatever it wasn't a big enough deal that I even remember it now. I remember more the feeling. And so when we have a lot of earth, the next thing we need to have some balance is some water. Water, we've all had those times when we get into beyond stability, into dug in, into too much stability, into tightness. And it sucks, we feel sticky. And so we need that water. Water is our first home as individuals. So we can think of our bodies like earth, like very earthy physical form. And then water is where that form took shape. So water is nurturing, it is comforting, it is soothing, it is also mysterious and somewhat unknown and unpredictable and faceless. And as adults, you see anything from like our body's 90% water, but the science is telling me like 40 to 60% water, women having less, men having more water in our bodies. So we need it. And what the water teaches us, particularly that's helpful in a yoga situation and in a life situation, is how to flow. It's about flowing and moving, being liquid mobility, so that we can move around and through and over and under things. So we're not stopped or slowed down by things that get in the way, but it lets us keep moving forward and take action. Water also is always seeking balance. Always. It will always go lower and lower until it finds balance. Balance with itself. So moving, flowing in life. So it's teaching us about flowing with life in a way that creates more balance. Not just to flow and then create like a tidal wave, but no, flowing to create a balanced way, flowing to find, seek, and maintain a quality of balance. And when we practice yoga, we can bring in a flowing quality. We'll have more flow in the actual practice today. But there's also, even in a stillness practice, even in a restorative practice, there can be this flowing quality of the flow of the breath, unimpeded, right? We've always got that. The flow of life force moving within the channels of the body, the Shakti that goes in through the nadis, being able to flow, not being stuck. And there's also the way to approach the pose, that as you enter or exit or are holding the pose, to have the quality of flowing with it rather than fighting against it, even if it's not your favorite pose or a pose that you struggle greatly with. To bring in the breath into the place that feels challenging, to bring in a sense of, I'm not going to fight against this, but I'm going to invoke more balance by flowing with the pose, even if it's hard. When we flow with life, when we flow with our practice, when we flow with our relationships, life has a more easeful quality. Doesn't mean easy. Sometimes water flows are really big and kind of scary, right? But it can be more easeful. It's like, it's a lot of work to try to paddle a canoe upstream. If you turn it around and go the way that the flow is going, much less work. So we invite that easeful quality, and that ease can draw you again and again into more balance, deeper connection with yourself, deeper connection with Shakti, with the life force, with your own heart, the source, right? Source has that quality like a spring, a source. So we'll enter into the source of life, enter into our own hearts today using the quality of flow with the intention to just bring more balance, whatever's been going on with you. So you can start by taking that seat that's going to hold you up. Let your hands rest on your thighs. Close your eyes. Breathe in and down to the sitting bones, and the sitting bones are planted like a bit of earth. And then just above the sitting bones, watery element in the lowest part of the pelvis. So really swishy, watery down there. It's really useful. And then feel that there's a natural curve in your lower back. That natural curve then ripples up through your spine. Now the midsection of your spine to move slightly back. It's like a concave curve from the front of your body. And then the neck ripples in and forward. The back of the head ripples back. So think of it like a vertical wave. Rest back into the back body. The watery organs resting back to the support of the rib cage and spine. And then awaken to the flow or the constriction of your breath. There's no need to create Ujjayi breath just yet. That's a constriction. We do it on purpose, but in this case, just noticing where you're holding your breath. Sometimes we hold the breath in the chest, sometimes in the throat, sometimes in the tiny areas around the nose or the mouth. Let yourself soften so that the breath can flow more easily and seek balance. Turn your awareness toward your heart space now. Welcoming whatever may be there this morning, as if it's, stepping in and being held in a warm pool. And with attention to all of this, the body, the breath, the heart. Join your palms in front and allow an intention to flow forth. We'll chant 3 rounds of Om. We'll follow that with the Shiva mantra in the Anusara tune. Welcome your in-breath. Shivaya Gurave Satchidananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase Bow your head to your heart space. And release your hands and let them float down to your thighs. Lift your head back up. Open your eyes. Come to hands and knees and have a block with you. That would be good. Just realizing that I did not turn off my phone, and I probably should do that before we start if I even have my phone with me, which may not be true. All right, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. So hands and knees, grab your block. excuse me. Take your block between your upper inner thighs, as we've often done, standing. So we're going to think of this, this flow being in the pelvis, but using it to enter into the heart today. And then come to hands and knees with the block between the inner thighs, curl your toes under, and imagine that the block is being pulled back and forth towards the back of the room and then forward. So as you inhale and go into cow tilt, really roll the inner thighs back and let that be what then ripples your spine up and your head up into into cow tilt. And then the same, scoop the tail down towards the block and let that ripple through your spine until your head is the last thing to ripple inwards. Inhale, the block moves back, the spine ripples forward. There's a rolling quality up till the gaze lifts. And exhale, ripple like a wave through the spine, tail first and all the way through. Now go back and forth a couple of times in this very clear wave-like motion through cat and cow. You may start to constrict the throat a little bit to create the Ujjayi sound. And you'll notice when you make the Ujjayi sound, it's like an ocean wave sound. It's like the sound that you hear when you listen in to a seashell. You want that same flowing, breathy quality to enter into your body as well. Next time you exhale, come back to a neutral spine. Take the block away, set it off to the side, and then do one or two little rounds without the block. Notice a little more freedom through the spine, through the tail. Really accentuate the movement of your pelvis as creating the movement through your spine. And the next time you come through an exhale, come to neutral spine and just wag your hips off to one side and then wag them over to the other side. And let your spine sort of follow like a wave of that. So when the hips go one way, the shoulders and spine go the other way. And I'm having a hard time articulating that. But again, the spine, the movement of the pelvis is directing the ribs to go in one direction, and the movement of the pelvis directs the ribs to go in another direction. So pelvis first, then ribs. A little bit of a lateral motion. And then you can even take it into a bit of a circle. So circling forward and around. But again, think of your pelvis as guiding the motion. And the breath and the body just going as well. So the breath can help the guiding, but the rest of the ribs, the torso, go the other way in your circle. Following the way the pelvis wants to go. But explore a little bit. So let yourself flow with your breath and your body. So earth really rigid and stable, so helpful. Water, not so rigid, really flexible, really fluid, lots of movement, a different kind of quality. So next time you come back to the front, pause in the center. Hover your knees up off the mat. We're going to be using this in a faster motion later. Hover the knees up off the mat and then push your weight back towards your feet. You're in a little crouch. Now, pelvis tips up. Tip your pelvis up and then slowly stretch the legs towards downward facing dog. If you need to, walk your feet back just a little bit. I know we were in table when we started that. Inhale, invite the breath to flow through the whole body, and then just gently tip your hips side to side. It can tip down a little more down towards the mat. Let's do it on tiptoes, actually. Bend your knees. Rise on tiptoes, bend your knees, and just allow the hips to shift side to side. Bring a little turn, twisting, shifting movement. Now, as you shift to the left, reach your right heel down towards the mat, and then back up and shift right and reach your left heel towards the mat. And back up and shift hips left, right heel down. Come up, hips right, left heel down.
Come up one more time each side. Right heel down, hips are left. Come into the middle, left heel down, right, hips are right. Come into the middle, bend both knees. Keep your arms firm, shift forward, or actually, instead of shifting forward into plank, round your spine. So scoop your tail in as if you were doing a cat tilt. Roll all the way through your spine to plank, and then bend both knees. Shift your hips way back. Lift your sitting bones, go back to downward facing dog. I'm teaching you the elements of what we'll call our water salutation in a moment. So do that one more time. Bend your knees a little, scoop your tail under, round through your spine. Round your spine all the way forward to plank. Bend your knees, shift way back, hips back. Lift the hips up, downward facing dog. Put that into motion in a little bit. Step your right foot forward, come into lunge. Welcome a full, sweet, easy breath to flow through your whole body. And then exhale and lower your left knee down onto the mat. Scissor your legs towards each other. Now take your right hand on your right thigh. And before you go any further, take the tops of both thighs back. So you roll the inner thighs back, get the flexibility. Left thigh wide, drop your right sitting bone down, then twist, open towards the right. You can stay here, you can take your right arm up, or you can lift your back thigh even, depending on what your body needs and wants today. And from your pelvis, reach down into the legs. And from your pelvis, extend through your spine and all the way out through your fingertips. Exhale, bring your hand back down to the mat. Lift your back knee and step back to downward facing dog. And then look forward and step your left foot forward between your hands, standing forward bend. I did not mean standing forward bend, I'm thinking ahead. Come into lunge, make your back leg firm. Back knee can come down, take a deep breath. Now, before you come up really far, left hand on your left thigh, but do take the inner thighs back. So when your inner thighs go back, you're not just shifting back. Let's play with that rolling quality of the thighs. Really roll and take the tops of the thighs as wide as you can. Then turn. Scoop your tail under on the left side. There you go. An arm can go up if it feels like it flows from your shoulder up and out. Good. And so we're in stillness, but allow for some flow. How do you flow in stillness? Well, you breathe for one thing. And allow for opening, whatever that may be. Shoulders back, head back a little. Good. Exhale, bring your hand back down to the mat. Lift your back knee up, and this time standing forward bend, Uttanasana. Bow over. Inhaling, stretch your heart halfway forward, legs strong and steady. Exhale and fold, flow towards your heart. The legs strong, reach for the sky and come up. Inhale. And then join your palms at your heart center. Exhale. Return to your intention and bring it forward with you into this little bit of the next flow, flowing through what I'll call water salutation. Release your hands. Inhale, reach up. And then let's turn the palms down and roll through the spine. So it's a ripple through the spine all the way down. Don't often do that, just changing things up. Inhale and reach your heart halfway forward. Step all the way back to plank pose. Exhale and plank. Now, instead of hovering in plank and lowering down, you're going to bend both knees, shift the hips back, slide up to downward facing dog. Earrings and hair do not go together in my world. So downward facing dog. Now ripple forward into plank. We're going to do it again. Bend the knees, shift the hips back, slide up, downward facing dog, ripple forward into plank. One more time, bend the knees, shift back, downward facing dog. Now ripple forward into plank and keep going. Bend the elbows a little bit, ripple the hips down, the heart up into cobra. Inhale, exhale, lower down. Push the hands down, inhale, heart up, cobra. Exhale, lower down. One more time, inhale, heart up, cobra, head back and ripple all the way down. Curl the toes, ripple back to downward facing dog. Look forward to the top of the mat, bend your knees and step or float to the top in Uttanasana. Inhale and reach your heart halfway forward. Exhale and fold. Sweep the arms wide, reach all the way up to the sky, and then return your hands to your heart center. Release your hands, float them up, inhale. And remember to roll down, so hands point down, draw your navel back, roll through your spine, just see how that goes. It's a little different than usual. Inhale, heart forward, step back to plank, exhale. 3 of those little bending the knees to dog, so bend the knees, push back, downward facing dog, roll forward into plank, like a wave, shift back, and up to downward facing dog. Roll forward into plank like a wave. One more time. Shift way back. Watery, flowing. Down dog to plank, to roll through, and up to cobra. Inhale. Feet down. Exhale, lower. Inhale, up, cobra. Exhale, lower. One more time. Inhale up, cobra, really big if it's available. And exhale, lower. And then float back, downward facing dog. Exhale. Look forward to the top of the mat. Bend your knees, step or float like a boat to the top. Inhale, heart halfway forward. And exhale, fold over your legs. Take your arms wide, rise up. Palms together in front of your heart. We'll do it one more time. Release your hands. Inhale, reach. Roll through the spine like a little waterfall, rippling down. Legs have to stay steady for that. Inhale your heart forward to the front. And exhale back to plank pose. And we just flow right through this. So shift back, go up, down dog. And as soon as you get there, roll forward. Shift back. And up to down dog, and then right away, roll forward into plank. One more time, shift back, roll up to down dog, and then forward into plank, lower down, and curl up in cobra. Feet back, head up. Exhale, lower the heart. Follow the flow. Heart rises, head back. Exhale, lower. Heart rises, head back, pause. Flow the shoulders back to allow the heart to open more. Exhale, lower. Downward facing dog. And return to your breath. So notice if there's a steadiness of the breath that can return into your body. If it was lost, we don't usually quite flow in practice. You just want to recognize and connect with it. Inhale and sweep your right leg up into the air in 3-leg dog, and then bend your right knee, float it over towards the left side, float it back to the center, knee to nose, hover in, stretch all the way back to 3-leg dog. Same thing, float it over to the left side. We're not gonna hold, we just come back, hover in, knee to nose, step forward. Bring your back heel down, Parshvakonasana. Right forearm to your right thigh, left hand to your hip, or you're gonna have your right hand on a block if you're ready for that. Welcome a full breath to open into the places that are sticky, that have too much earth this morning. And then squeeze your leg muscles firmly, lean a little forward and roll both inner thighs wildly back. Good. Draw your tail under and really hug your right outer hip in and let that help your heart become buoyant. It's like floats over top. And take the top arm up and over when you're ready. Parshva. So be within the flow of this. So we're not moving it, but you may be able to feel now more of the aliveness within your body that came from flowing earlier already. Now release your hand down onto the floor. Keep your legs as they are. And walk both hands out on the diagonal. Remember, water seeks balance. There's a quality of bowing in, finding its own level. So again, inner thighs flow back. Keep the back inner thigh lifted. Wrap your right seat under a little more and see how much you can melt, soften towards the earth. Earth holds, water flows. Walk your hand slowly back towards your right foot. Take your right hand behind your right leg and then stretch your legs straight to open up into triangle pose. Welcome your breath again. So the breath comes to the place, particularly where there's too much earth. It's the place wherever you feel stuck in this pose. Send in the breath like a liquid support. And the thighs keep rolling in their directions. You know them already. Lift your heart, spin your heart open, look up to your thumb. When we can be in flow with however things are going in this moment, which we may not like them, but when we can be in flow with them, there's a little more ease. You don't have to fight the world. Exhale, bring your hand down, bend your front knee, step back to downward facing dog. And let's just do that little hip shift. So rise on your tiptoes, bend your knees, send your right hip towards the mat and your left heel down. And up in the center, send your left hip towards the mat and your right heel down. And up into the center. Inhale, sweep your left leg high. Bend your left knee, take it to the right just for a moment, and then knee to nose, curl in. Shift back, three-leg dog. Do it again, bend your leg over towards the right, and then knee to nose, curl in. Step forward into lunge, Parsva Konasana on the second side. Bring your forearm to your thigh, your hand to your hip, and open up. Receive the breath as a way that we stay in communion with Shakti. Let it flow. Hug the leg muscles to the bones. There's some earth, but then widen at the tops of the thighs quite a bit. Wrap your left seat under and hug your left hip in. There you go. Then float your heart open, top arm up. Express the pose, like flows out of you. It's like a natural, we want the poses to become more of like natural expression of the spirit that's inside of you. And a lot of times we hold back or we go too far and it's like we're working too hard. Just let it flow right out. Bring your hand to the mat, walk it out on the diagonal. Bowing warrior. See if you can settle your hips a little bit lower. I know the thigh's been in this position a while. It's all right. Squeeze the legs, wrap the left seat under even more. Push down to the feet, let the heart soften. Let the heart soften. Too much earth around the heart, we get stuck, we get hard. The softness of water. Walk your hands back, put them on the outside, left hand on the outside, straighten your left leg and open up triangle pose. You don't have to wait, you can just go for it. From the four corners of both feet, lift up into the core of your pelvis, keep that, and roll. Literally roll your thighs. So there's turning quality, there's the flow. The back thigh turns more, the front hip can corkscrew under and then reach out. Let your heart flow out into the space around you through this pose. Excellent. Bring your hand down to the mat and step back. Now you have the choice. You can just do down dog or child's pose, or you can go through those three little ripply waves, doing this kind of water salutation, watery salutation. And move it to a back bend. And then to downward facing dog. Excellent. Again, take your right leg high, flow it up. Nice and light. And then knee to nose and step forward, lunge. Bring your back knee down onto the mat. Let's keep the back toes curled under. Bring your hands up to your front thigh and pause. And then receive your breath again. A little lean forward. And that's just to help you not be sunk into the earthiness of this pose. Lean a little forward. Squeeze your front foot and your back knee towards each other so they've got some power. And then take your left hand around to the behind your left thigh to the left inner thigh. You're just gonna hold on there. It's like, hey, great. Take the top of the left thigh back into your hand, and then with your hand and your muscles, roll the left thigh out to the left and then around to the front. Lots of rotation. Then draw your tail down. You can release your hand, sweep both arms up to come into Anjaneyasana. So I like to hook my thumbs when I come here. Thumbs are hooked, yeah. As the legs push down, remember water wants to go down and be level. As the legs push down, allow the heart to flow upwards like a fountain, like a geyser. Lift. And then exhaling, reach forward, touch the mat, step back to down dog. Deep breath in and downward facing dog, deep breath out. Flow your left leg high into the air. Step it through into lunge. After you've scissored your hips, bring your right knee down and take a breath. And then squeezing the legs towards each other, bring your hands up to your front thigh, pause. So the front foot and the back leg are connecting with an isometric connection. And then right hand reaches around to the right inner thigh. Lift your thigh back into your hand and then use your muscles of your leg and actually use your hand to turn your right leg out towards the right. So if the back part goes out, the front part comes in. Scoop your tail under and then sweep your heart up, reach both arms up, Anjaneyasana. So that turning of the thigh helps to bring your right hip more to the right, which levels your hips to the front. And then there's more actual space for your spine to lift up and out into this back bend. Good. Exhale, reach down, touch the mat. Your choice to do water salutation with it, or to do downward facing dog, or child's pose. Of course, you could just do sun salutation if you prefer, but we're trying to change things up a little bit. What feels like flow to you? Even if it's flowing in stillness. It's actually a really powerful way to be able to be still but not rigid, stuck in place. Lots of us get still, but as soon as we do, we entrench. This is the way. I'm right. This is the only thing. And so water invites us to say, no, I can be in stillness and be balanced. Still be flowing. Look forward towards the top of the mat, bend your knees, step or float yourself forward into standing forward bend. Inhale the heart halfway out. Exhale, fold over. Take your arms wide, come up to standing, inhale. And then draw the palms to your heart. Exhale. Let's stand onto the left leg. So from the left foot all the way up to your pelvis, draw in. Yeah. Bend your right knee to standing quad stretch. Maybe. Bring your left hand to your hip. So for just a second, let's do our remedial work with this rotation. Allow both knees to come forward. Roll the inner thighs back. Tops of the pelvis gets wide. Then draw your tail down, straightening the legs. Bring your right knee alongside your left.
Can stay there or take your arm up. Now, allow your pelvis to tip forward. The ridge, the top ridge of the pelvis, it's a bowl shape. Imagine water is going to pour out towards the front, right over the top of the left thigh, Kick your right foot back to come towards baby dancer. If you over tip the pelvis, you'll just fall over. So let it really more come from the leg. Lift your heart. Flow in stillness. Stillness and flow. And then slowly come back up and release. Pause a moment. Yeah, you might need to let the hips flow for a sec. A little movement. And then stand onto your right leg. Four corners of the right foot. Earth, yeah. Earth all the way up the leg into your pelvis. And then right hand on the hip, take hold of the left foot. And spread out your left toes. Bend both knees. Let the knees shift forward as the tops of the thigh bones roll back and wide in the hip sockets. Then scooping your tail, lift up your low belly and straighten your legs. Bring your left leg in line with your right. You can take the right arm alongside the ear. The quad stretch first. And then as you're ready, so the motion of the pelvis comes because the leg is moving. Kick the leg back. Lift your low belly. Yeah, maybe your pelvis tips a little forward as you come towards baby dancer. Doesn't have to. Keep your right leg strong. Nice, everybody. Good. And then slowly draw back in and release. Take your feet just a little bit wider than hip distance on the mat. Bend your knees. Let's just make figure eights with the hips for a second. You know, so much of yoga is front and back, right? In the hips, there's not any circular motion in the yoga, probably because it was mostly made by men. And we need these circular motions, the hips, a ball and socket joint. I'm just making figure eights in one direction, and then see if you can reverse and do it the other direction. That's harder for me. A little belly dance moment. It's really healthy for the hips to get in some circles. And you all seem to realize that. That's awesome. Very good. Come back to the center. You can leave the knees slightly bent. Roll both inner thighs way back. Take your hands back and clasp them. And then as you stretch the legs and scoop the tail, bow over. If it's too much to have the legs fully straight, just bend them. Totally cool. Totally good. Be with your breath. Legs are strong. Inner thighs still roll back. As you roll the inner thighs back, you'll notice you can push the tops of the thighs wider. Right at the top, wider at the top of the thigh, and then stretch the legs a little straighter if that's available. Lift your shoulders, take the arms up and over. Release your hands down to the mat. Inhale, reach your heart forward and go either to downward facing dog or through a vinyasa or a watery vinyasa, what we're calling this water salutation. And we'll meet up in downward facing dog. Be like a wave if you're moving with that water salutation. It's really wave-like rather than rigid. Excellent. Take your right leg high again. Inhale. Right knee towards your nose, and then turn your hips towards the left. Kick your right foot out to the left. Come on the inside edge of your left foot, or actually just put your left heel down, and then sweep your left arm up. It's like it's a side plank on your right hand and your left foot. There we go. Put your left hand back down. Bring your right knee in towards your nose. Lift it way up. And step back to wild thing on your left hand and your left foot, excuse me. Open the right arm up and over. And then come back to the center and go to down dog. So we'll do it slow again, this time to the other side.
Bring your left leg up, inhale, knee to nose. Kick your left foot over to the right, come on your bottom of your right foot, and then reach up. You can also be on the inner edge of the right foot if that's, or sorry, the right foot. I'm like, where am I? And then right hand down, sweep your left leg all the way up and go right over to Wild Thing. On the right hand, left foot. So you want to feel the flowing quality of those two things, and then come back to the center and go downward facing dog. Bend your knees, come to child's pose a moment. Just trying to catch up with you. Let your breath and your body catch up to each other so they're flowing together again. So you're trying to like piece these things together, and sometimes the body's like, what? That does not make sense to me. Okay, so look up for a second. I'll show you how we'll do it this time. You can stay at that slower pace, or it's just an inhale, leg goes up, knee comes in, and you just twist open, you barely hit it, and then flow all the way back in, all the way over. Like just a little flip over, and then back in, and straight up into the other side. It comes out, barely touch it, and flip yourself over. So it's almost like a log being rolled around in water, right? Like when you see the big trees floating down the river and they're just they're rolled around. That's the feeling I want you to have. So it's not so much about like, let me rigidly get this pose, like just barely touch it and then flow back over through it. Then we'll leave this alone. Okay, so here we go. Come to downward facing dog. Go with your breath. Right leg inhales up. Bring your knee in and under, kick it over to the left side of the mat and open the left arm up. And just once you've touched it, hand comes back down and switch all the way back over to Wild Thing. Don't worry about it being perfect. Yeah, just go with your breath. Once you've touched Wild Thing, you can come back to the center and then just switch sides. Left leg goes up, play with the flow of it, and through and under, reach the left arm, so to the right arm up, yep. Once you've touched it, you just float right back over to Wild Thing. You don't have to be perfect. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and then back to the center and downward facing dog. It just feels good to me. Take your right foot forward and come into pigeon. Pigeon prep. Imagine you're like doing this on a stand-up paddleboard or something, or on a raft. So we got a little flow underneath of us, even if we're getting very grounded. Press your right pinky toe down and then lean forward, float the hips back and up and roll. Left inner thigh over to the left, right outer hip crease down and then bow. Just for 2 or 3 breaths in the bow. Make them count. That means, not like you have to breathe perfectly. It's more about make it count as like be really attentive. Let the breath go exactly where it needs to go. Walk your hands back, keep your legs. Bring your right hand in the inside. Bend your left knee, reach back for quad stretch on this side. If this is too much, you can always quad stretch on your belly. You can always put your right hand on a block. Roll the inner thighs back and wide. Use the muscle of your left inner thigh to push the left inner thigh out to the left. Oh, drop your tail, heart up. Like the front of a ship. Release your leg, step back, downward facing dog. Feel free to shake out the right leg if you like. Switch sides, bring your left leg forward, pigeon. Pinky toe down. Push your back knee into the mat, drag it forward and roll, like the hips lift. It's like they're up riding a wave. They lift up, roll to the right. And then as the tail comes down, the wave subsides, bring your forearms down. And this is that breath that counts because we're not going to stay here for a half an hour in pigeon. So send the breath where it needs to be. Remember, we're looking for the softness of balance, the nurturance of the flow in the body. You might even rock your ribs side to side a little bit, letting the torso flow. And walk your hands back, left hand in front. Can also be on your left thigh if you want, or on a block. Bend your right knee, take hold of your right foot, quad stretch. Spread your toes. With the leg activated, roll the top of the right inner thigh, the back, and then over to the right. And with your tail down, lift your heart again like the front of a ship. Riding the wave. Of course, we'd probably all be bare-breasted or something, so we don't have to go that far, but there is the lift, right? Hovering up. I know, I thought you guys would like that. Hanumanasana version. All right, release your legs, step back, downward facing dog. Again, option to shake out left leg if you'd like. Then let's bend the knees and come down, swing your legs out ahead of you. So one seated pose, Janu Shirshasana, get your blanket if you need it, get your strap if you need it. Bend your left knee, bring it back and wide. Roll your inner thighs into the mat, flow. There's this movement, this flowing quality. Hopefully the muscles feeling less restricted to the bone. There's more movement. And then low back in and up. Remember that ripple that waves through the spine. Spin towards your right leg and bow. Let's even do a tiny bit of a wave here. So as you inhale, slightly lift up and lengthen through your spine as you exhale and bow forward. You can do that a few times. My knee does not want to do that right now. So it's just very soft. Oh, that little bit of ripple, but the inhale lifts you up a little bit. And the exhale extends the spine a little bit more. Like a wave. One more time. Inhale, come all the way up. Bring your left leg back to the front. Bring your right leg back. Turn the thighs. Turn and face the left leg. Big breath in. And then bow forward over your left side. Firm your left thigh, press it towards the mat, and then low back goes in and up even as you inhale, little lift up. Exhale, ripple out along the leg. And it's back and forth that way. Inhale lifts you up a little. The exhale ripples you out. You might find just a different length, different quality of length by going through that ripple. Let it go all the way through to the top of your head. And of course, if you'd rather be in stillness, just pause. Be in stillness. One more breath. Inhale and slowly come back up. All right, have your block, and we're coming down onto the back. Okay, so I'm trying to navigate what I'm trying to do here. All right, so come down onto your back. We're gonna do some back bending with emphasis on where your pelvis is. So many times we do just what the shoulders are doing, but y'all know what the shoulders are doing. So let's talk about what the pelvis is doing. So I'll demonstrate first. You all have probably all seen this, but maybe it's been like, I don't know, 10 years. It could be a while. So it's maybe hard to see what I'm doing. I apologize. I know Zoom is not always the best for every demonstration, but the idea here, lengthen the side ribs, heads of the arm bones back as always. So nothing changes in our shoulder implementation. But then when you lift up, we're going to play with creating more flow in the pelvis so that your low back feels really good. And that means we're going to lift up first and then lower down just a little and roll the inner thighs in. As they do, my low back arches, hips lower a little bit. Now think of the tailbone like a shovel that scoops forward and then up. So I've lifted, I roll down, tailbone scoops forward and then up. So there's this flowing quality of rolling the pelvis up into this. And now there's just so much more space for my lower back. I just feel really good here. Can clasp the hands behind or not. Continuing, the thighs are rolling down, the tailbone's lengthening up. And that just took me a whole different place in the pose. So then I release the arms, hips come down just as always. So that's the work of it, that pelvis rolling into it a little bit in a different way rather than just locked in place like earth. We want the flexibility, the liquid quality of water as we come into this. So we'll do a little bit of bridge and maybe get to Urdhva Dhanurasana if y'all are rocking it, feeling good. So let's see how it goes. Let's start with bridge. Place your block if you haven't already. Get your hands ready. So I like Yoga Robot for this because I feel really stable. And then make sure that your feet are not like wildly doing something else. Right? So they're not too wide. Bring them in line with your sitting bones or maybe a little bit wider than that. And pointing straight ahead. Take a deep breath. Feel yourself spread slightly on the mat like water spreading out. And then hug the bottom tips of your shoulder blades into the back of your heart. Press your feet down, lift your hips up. Come up as if you're going to go to your bridge. You could even take your shoulders underneath. Shoulders are set. They're supporting your head and your neck. You're not going to go anywhere. And then just pause. Internally rotate the thighs. Allow the brick to move towards the mat a little bit. Hollow in the front. Yeah. Then scoop your tail towards your block and let that guide you possibly deeper into the lift of the pose. We never forget the thighs rolling back. So the thighs are rolling back the whole time. The tops of the inner thighs roll back towards the floor, but the tailbone scooping forward. It's like a ladle scooping into a bucket of water, lifts up your pelvis and up you go, and there's freedom. Press your head down, lengthen through the torso and push down into your feet. Then release your arms, set your hips back down and rest. And as you come out of the back bend, feel the corresponding rush of Shakti through the body. What has been maybe too earthy, too bound up in the heart space and other areas of the body can start to now flow freely. And sometimes it's like a dam being opened. Powerful spread of Shakti, which is our innate power. When we're more in touch with that, there's just more ease in life. All right, so let's try another bridge pose. Your choice. You can keep your block and keep working with the block, or you can attempt to do the same work, but without the block. So the block's nice, it gives you feedback, but sometimes it can limit how much rotation you can get in the thigh. So see what you think. Maybe you want to try it without the block. Your choice. Knees bent. Bring your hands to Yoga Robot and soften a little bit into the mat. So there's this like spreading out like a puddle held by the earth. And then full breath, flow the armpits towards the ears. Hug the shoulder blades to the back of the heart. Now push down, lift your hips. When I first lift up, it's a good spot, but it's not as supported as it could be. And there's a little constriction. So roll the inner thighs in. Let the pelvis move towards the mat a little. And then lots of scoop, tailbone towards heels.
Low belly up. Maybe come up a little higher. Maybe clasp the hands. Bridge pose, Setu Bandhasana. It's a bridge over the water, but we need the water to support it. Maybe you can walk your feet in a little closer to your head even. Press the head down, lift the heart up. Breathe. Let there be some ease as the breath just flows through the pose, not fighting the pose, flowing with it. And then exhaling, release the arms, set your hips back down. And again, rest, eyes closed so you can be more sensitive to the woof, the flow through the breath, the body, receiving life force. Okay, so same idea, moving into Urdhva Dhanurasana. If you need a little support for your wrists, you're welcome to take your blocks to the wall and give yourself a little bit of support by having the block horizontal, on a diagonal on the wall, or even just roll a blanket and put it by your head to put your hands on the blanket. It's a nice way to work to give the wrists a little bit more support. Let's bring the block back if you took it away that last time. So you have the chance to feel what Urdhva Dhanurasana can feel like with some support of the block. But it's the same thing. We'll do exactly what we've, been doing for, 15 years now with the work in the head and shoulders. Just adding this bit of the pelvis so that your spine feels good. Particularly the lower part of the spine can get constricted. This keeps that flowing and open. So take your block between your upper inner thighs. Place your feet. Of course, if you need to, stick with bridge. Otherwise, reach your hands back and place them for Urdhva Dhanurasana, about in line with your ears. Having hair issues. All right, so fingers are spread. Good. Press your feet down. Lengthen your side ribs. Hug the armpits back. Lift your hips. Come to the top of your head. Pause. Walk your hands back now. Shoulder blades onto the back of the heart. Push down, lift up. And then see if you can do it. Bend your knees a little more. Roll the inner thighs back. Scoop your tail. It's harder here towards your heels. And then stretch up into full Urdhva Dhanurasana. Good. Look for the floor. Roll the inner thighs back towards your face, even as your tailbone reaches forward towards the wall, away from your face. You might rock and have some movement. And then chin to chest, slowly lower, come all the way down, hips down, rest a moment. Breathing. Just be in the sweet nurturance of your breath. And that, imagine like the heartbeat, your heartbeat, then reverberating like as if a stone was thrown into a lake, that kind of rippling out. Your heartbeat rippling and being reverberated in every cell. So the water in every cell, creating this kind of pulsing, rippling quality. When we do this kind of work in the body, we create an internal harmony, and that's what feels like balance, synchronicity, or wholeness. All right, so let's do at least one more Urdhva Dhanurasana. Block optional or not, you can take it away. See what you think. And then reach back, place the hands again. I usually bite my hair when it gets this long, but I can't bite my hair and talk to you at the same time. So now I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. All right, so hands are placed. Push your feet down. Here we go. Big breath in, push down, come to the top of the head. Pause. Head to the arm bones way back. Use your legs, push your heart forward, lift up, and then roll the inner thighs back. Scoop your tail, and up you go into Urdhva.
You can play with rocking in it, letting the heart rock open even more. Keep your armpits back. And then chin to chest, lower down, come all the way down, rest one more time. If there's anything within you that has felt like sticky, too much earth, stuck, breathe it out with this exhale. Let it go on the flow that follows the back bend. Let it just flow right out. Let it just release. And then take hold of your block. Lift your hips up and place your block under your sacrum. And that can be at any of the three heights, whatever feels like it's just the nice height for you, for a moment or two of restorative back bend, restorative bridge pose. And this can feel a bit like a waterfall. The higher up you are, the more waterfallish it can feel. So I like it. You know, after back bending, I've got the openness to put it at the highest height on my sacrum. We don't want any pinching in the low back. So if that's happening, just lower the level of the block. Remember, our first home, our first formation was in water. Allow yourself to be nurtured in much the same way by this little restorative pose. Your eyes can close, your breath is free. While the exhales to remove, again, anything that's crystallized, contracted, held onto, that's dug in unnecessarily, which is most everything. And then look up, reach under, take the block away, set the hips back down. Let the body find itself in this more level position again. And roll over to one side. Come up all the way to downward facing dog. So downward facing dog is a way to, again, neutralize the spine. Hopefully low back feels pretty good after those back bends, but I just want to make sure. So, you know, if we were in class, we might do spa dog, but we don't have anybody to help at home, although you might be able to call somebody. Bend your knees, send your sitting bones way up, and then press back with your hips. Back with the arms push back, but not so much that you collapse to your thighs with your torso, but really press the thighs back. Imagine the thigh bones in the hip socket hooking and pulling the hips back. You may want to stretch your legs. You may want to keep them bent. I like being bent right now. Then come down and step your right leg forward into lunge. Bring your left knee bent behind you. So one more back bend. You may choose to put your hands on blocks. It's a little easier. It's like a one-legged camel here. So if you want to, put your blocks beside your heel, and that makes this back bend not quite so deep. Or, and not blocks, it's just one. You only need one. We're not taking both hands back now that I think about it. So just one block near the outer heel, or not. Yeah. So right leg is forward, left leg is back. Bring your hands to your right thigh. Take a deep breath in. Shift a little forward as if you were going to do quad stretch. And then inner thighs back, scoop your tail. Take your left arm floated up. Inhale, lift up. You're going to turn your gaze, let the left arm float back to the block or to the foot. And then inhale, turn your heart towards the sky. Take your left arm up and alongside your ear and reach out. It's like Anjaneyasana with a deeper back bend, or camel pose just on one side. Good. Push down into the legs to inhale, lift the torso. Yeah.
The arm's doing like a Wild Thing arm. So it's, right alongside the ear. It's not off to the side. Let's switch sides. Bring your right leg back, take your left leg forward. Again, the block can be there as a little bit of a more of a lift if it's a little too deep. Hopefully back feels really good already though. Bring your hands up to your left thigh, take a deep breath, and flow a little forward with the pelvis, and the inner thighs flow back. Right inner thigh wide. Drop your tail down, and then sweep your right arm forward. Inhale it up. Take it back. It lands on the block or on the foot. Then curl your heart more open towards the ceiling as you scoop the tail under, and left arm up alongside your ear. When you push into the legs, it allows you to descend the pose like water finding gravity, but also to lift your heart. Reach out. No argument with the pose. Wherever you're stuck, you just wait and breathe. And then pushing down into the leg, inhale, come back up. Nice. It's not the easiest pose. Take your block away. Let's unwind the spine again. So step back to that down dog. Again, imagine you had the friend to do spa dog for you. So bend your knees. Push your hips way back and up. And your choice, again, with the thighs in the hip socket, you may want to stretch the legs straighter, or you may want to keep the legs bent, your choice. Main thing that the very tops of the thigh bones, the circular knob, the head of the thigh bone, is like yanking in the most loving way possible the orbit of the hip socket back. Breathe into your kidney space. And then bend both knees and come down. Grab a blanket to sit on for seated pose if you want it. Let's take the right shin in front of the left in just a simple cross-legged position. And roll both inner thighs towards the mat. Inhale, sweep the left arm up. Left hand to the right knee, twist. So very, very simple position of the legs so that you can concentrate on your spine. Keep your low spine, your lumbar spine, in neutral so it hasn't turned with you. And then turn, at the ribs and up. If you need to back out a little bit, just back out and come back into it. Remember that ripple in the spine. The low back's always in. Mid back then comes back out a little bit. Neck goes in. This is the view from the back. And look over the right shoulder. Inhale and untwist. Let's switch the cross of your legs. Take the right arm up, inhale. Exhale, right hand to left knee. Keep the low spine neutral, it doesn't move. And then it's from the mid section of the spine and up, twist. And look over the left shoulder. Sense if you are leaning backwards or pushing forwards. And find neutral, where your spine is vertical but not flat. Interior to the body, in the energy body, there is a column of energy, the central channel of the body. We call it the Sushumna Nadi, where the Shakti can flow more easily, right? Where the Shakti really pools. The chakras are along this central channel. And when we are vertical with the spine, that channel is aligned. It's easier for Shakti to move through it. We feel more empowered and awakened when the Shakti's moving easily in the central channel. So inhale and come up. So yes, there's physical alignment, what the physical body's doing. There's also energetic alignment and how we support that. Bring the soles of your feet together. Turn the inner thighs towards the mat. The outer thigh moves wide out of the way. Lift up. Low back in and up, and a corresponding ripple up through the spine, and then keep the low back in as you come forward. Forward is relative for each of us. Know that the forward bending postures are among the most challenging and are also among the ones that have the most variance in bodies. So don't look at the outside to judge how you're doing against everyone else. These poses have a lot of different expressions. Go to the inside, how it feels, where you're creating opening or where you're grounding, if that's what your body needs. Let's do a little bit of that rippling quality. So you inhale, ripple yourself up, and then extend the spine and ripple out a little bit. Exhale. I'm using my hands on the floor. Your hands might be on your ankles. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, ripple down. One more time. It's just like a cat and cow. Inhale, lift up. Then exhale, ripple down. And inhale and ripple all the way up to seated. Hands under the legs. Take the legs out wide. Upavishta Konasana. Roll your inner thighs towards the mat. And they widen at the very top. Turn and face your right leg. Certainly add a strap if you'd like. Take a deep breath and then walk yourself forward. And if it's felt good through the practice, you can play with that bit of a ripple. Main thing is to keep the leg really stable. The ripple can help you find more length through the spine. It also keeps you from just going to sleep in the pose. Everyone, ripple your right rib cage towards the right, just a little bit, and then don't come back, stay to the right. Inhale and rise back up. Turn and face the left leg, breath in, legs strong, exhale and bow. Maybe you want to play with a slow rippling quality. Maybe you want to be in stillness, but still have a sense of flow. The movement, the flow of water can help us to awaken places that have been too stuck. But we also can move so much that we forget the joy of stillness. We can become, we move so much that we can't ever get still or sit still. We've met people like that. So we want to have balance. Remember, water is seeking balance. Enough of each element where we feel whole and integrated and not overrun. Inhale, slowly lift yourself back up. Let's come down in the middle of these two. Lift the heart, walk yourself forward. Again, there's the option to do a little rippling through this. And I'm just, literally articulating, rolling through the spine a few times and letting each one take me a little bit deeper into the pose. But if that feels really too wonky or you'd rather be still, be still. Activate your legs, press the inner thighs back and wide and down. Low back in and up, no matter how deep you are in the pose. And then bow. Seeking that humble, low space of water. Gently walk yourself back up. Bring your legs back in and then come onto your back on your mat. Once you get down onto the mat, just hover your legs up and let them kind of dangle. You're not touching them and you're not really controlling them. Imagine that they're just kind of floating in a pool of water. And even then, for a moment, you can hover the arms up. Not in any particular place, although I'm feeling the thigh bones and the hip socket and the shoulders and the shoulder girdle, and that feels good. And then as if you're just kind of like seaweed in water, let your legs and body roll around for a minute. You might roll all the way onto one hip or the other. Just like, again, as if you're just very gently rolling through water like a baby, not quite even born yet. Just floating, hovering. You might want the legs to come lower or higher. Our watery beginnings. This is a really healing, nurturing way to move. You know, in dance, when I was a dance therapist, we might have moved this way with patients who were really struggling. Just get to the floor, move like water's moving you. And then make this become a twist where both knees are on the right side and the arms open out. So however you get there, like you float through water to get there, and then the knees stack and you're over on the right side with the knees, the arms open into the T, ripple through the spine so low back curves in, and turn your head to the left. Let the breath feel still flow, same as it was just a moment ago. Come back to the center with your head, and then let the legs float up in this kind of watery way. Arms can float up again. Again, be seaweed for just a second. Even the toes can be seaweed. It's interesting to let the legs flow independently of each other. And then ripple on over to the left side, however it makes sense to end up there. Let the knees stack, arms open. Notice how sweetly supported you feel. So certainly there is the firm stability of earth below you, but also this kind of watery nurturance all around you. Even imagine the mat is more like a raft floating on a calm, warm sea. That's not your image, that's okay, let that go. And then just like seaweed, little current blows through, let the legs hover back up. And again, you can play with letting the arms and legs move around as if you're moving through water, almost as if the water is moving you rather than you moving with it. Let this draw you towards happy baby pose, like little baby embryo. You can even curl even tighter into a ball, bringing your tail and your head close together like they were as you formed, however many years ago. You might rock your happy baby side to side. That's feeling a little more nurturing today to me. And not taking it too seriously, not being too forceful. Letting go of anything that feels like too much earth. Just follow any impulse. So it might not look much like happy baby by the time you're done, but that's okay.
And then allow this fluid moving quality to slowly, gently unfold you until you come out and rest, land in Shavasana. Do support yourself in Shavasana. And imagine the body now, this very fluid body, more than 50%, somewhere around 50% water at least. Let it get softer and spread like a puddle on the mat. Again, as if it's seeking its own level. There aren't any sharp points. Nothing that's pushing up or away. Become liquid. And balanced in that liquid. So you can imagine that even though, yes, your body has physical edges, there's earth to the body. Imagine that you then spread out beyond the edges of the body. You spread your consciousness out along the floor like the surface of a lake. Smooth, soft. There may be ripples that flow through the lake, distraction from the outside or the inside. Let yourself move back to the stillness, back to the deep source in the heart. And rest in Shavasana for several minutes with this spread, balanced, flowing, watery space.
Gently allow your breath its natural flow. Let it deepen a bit. Wash through the body like a wave. And then slowly stretch and move in the ways that feel good. Awaken the body again, like a ripple that comes from the deepest part of you and then moves out into motion. Gently bend your knees, roll yourself over to your right side. And press into the hands to come back up to seated. As you turn to the front, settle your sit bones and then close your eyes, turn in. Notice quality of flow within. Notice any sense of greater balance returning. And lift your palms in front of your heart. May this practice open you to be at ease within the flow of life. And as such, may it open your heart so that you may recognize yourself as part of life. And so that you can renew and deepen your connection with life force, with Shakti that moves in you and in all things. So with gratitude for this life, for this body, for this form, for the flow of life force within it, we'll chant an Om. Welcome your in-breath. Om. Namaste. Great. Thank you everyone for your practices this morning. So lovely to be with you.